Well, well, well. You have now entered the lair of the notorious Vic. Today, I'm going to be walking through a board game that I've started to work on and the steps that someone would take to get ready for their first playtest. So, if you're a big fan of board game design, whether you're a board game designer yourself or just a passionate gamer, feel free to tag along. So, the first step of any board game is going to be your concept. Now, I was lucky enough to have a concept that I'd been thinking on for a really long time. I loved the idea of taking my favorite first person shooters, or more specifically, hero shooters like Overwatch or Marvel Rivals, if you're familiar, and plugging them into a board game space. But, obviously the 3D dimension transfers over with little struggle. You have D&D where players are complaining that Pythagoras was born, but beyond that, there's a lot of games that have done it, and a lot of games will continue to do so. So I wasn't too worried about that. But where I didn't really know how to bring it in was the cooldowns, because obviously some of my first thoughts were pretty lackluster. Like you couldn't do a little actual timer or one of those sand hourglasses. But what I ended up coming up with after doing some thinking was the idea of cooldown piles. So, how a cooldown pile works is when you play a cooldown card, you put it on the bottom of the cooldown pile with the starting number of blank cards equal to its delay value. Now, that doesn't mean anything on its own until I go to, you know, your turn and playing these cards. So, during your turn, when you, or during the start of your turn, for each of your piles, you're going to take the top card of that pile. If it's a blank card, you put it on the bottom, and if it is a cooldown card, you put it into your hand. And if you put it into your hand, you repeat that process. Now, I can see a lot of people getting confused, and a few people have. Haven't talked to a lot of people about it yet, and thinking that if my pile has two cooldowns on top and two blanks on bottom, that you're going to put the two cooldowns into your hand, and that's going to be it. What's actually going to happen is you're going to put the two cooldowns in your hand and the top blank on the bottom of that pile, which normally wouldn't matter, but now take a situation where it's cooldown, blank, blank, cooldown. So, then you do that for each of your piles. So if I have three different piles, I have the opportunity to get three different values of cooldowns back. So that was how I brought cooldowns in. Then also, I had to bring ultimate abilities in because everyone loves to try to, get a crazy play with their ult or whatever. Now, sadly, this being a board game, you can't get those super high adrenaline moments, but you can still get excited. So how supercharges work is similar to cooldowns, but instead of using cards, I decided to use dice because when your cooldowns are in 5 card piles and your supercharge is suddenly in a 10 card pile, that just didn't feel right to me. But I might change my mind later. That is definitely up in the air. But what's not up in the air is how it will work on a fundamental level. Your supercharge card starts with some dice with a total value equal to your supercharge card's delay value on top of that supercharged card. Then, whenever you play a card that removes and or deals damage, you then remove or down tick one of the dice, and if that die would reach 0, you just remove it. That way you can use any size dice. You can use 2d6, you can use 1d20, however you want to go about it. But this makes it so that if my card has a delay of 10, or my supercharged card to be specific, I just need to hit someone or heal someone 10 times and I can play it. It might not sound like a lot because, if you're from Overwatch or Marvel Rivals, you hit someone 10 times and you've got, maybe 10%? But in a board game, that's going to feel like a lot longer. So that's how I brought supercharges in. Then also, if you're reading the screen, which you don't have to be, I 100% love podcasts. You can listen to this like a podcast. But if you are, you got spoilers. Playing a reaction card. So, when an opponent plays an action during their turn, which is just the standard cooldowns, and you have a reaction card in hand, you can then play it during their turn. Notably, you cannot play a reaction card during your turn, only during your opponent's turn. And when you do play your reaction card in response to your opponent's action, your reaction takes effect first. Now, this is kind of taken from Magic the Gathering, but if you're not familiar with games like Magic the Gathering, the reason why this happens is if I have something like a parry as a reaction, just for an example, that is going to block some of the damage from your attack. If by the time my card resolves, your card already hit me, then I can't parry that because I'm already cut. So that's my visualization for you. Also, there are a few cards that go into the active zone when they resolve. This is not anywhere that's super concrete. It can really be wherever as of right now. This is kind of a mechanic that I'm playtesting more than everything else. And if I like it, I'm going to keep it and expand on it. But all you need to know for now is that the active zone lets effects last for a few turns without you having to track each effect without actually having the card in hand or in a zone to represent that. I also made a little combat system. So I took from, ironically, my own tabletop role-playing game that I had been working on with targeted attacks and group attacks. So with a targeted attack, you choose your target within range and you roll 2 dice from your stats. Every hero has a list of stats. Those are your, it's coming. Those are your nimble die, your strong die, your gritty die, your experienced die, and your smart die. Just your stats are, dice. I probably should have said that sooner. And so you roll 2 of your stats together. The card will tell you which 2 to roll, and then the target of your attack rolls 2 of their dice together, and their hero card will tell them which ones to roll. So a character that is a mage might have their defense be their nimble die plus their experience die. And then group attacks are pretty much the same as targeted attacks, except, had to make a rule for it. You roll your attack once when you make a group attack, and each target, most of the time, group attacks say each target within range, so I almost said that, but each target of the group attack will then roll their defense, and it goes just the same as a targeted attack. So if you roll equal to or higher, you hit them, and if they roll higher, you miss. And then every single attack will also just say what happens when you hit them, even if it might just be you deal damage. Some of them it's actually not damage. Um, I also added a little bit of tactics with spaces, because as much as I did say you can bring the 3D space in, you can't bring it into the same level. I can't have, Storm and Human Torch flying around in my board game at Mach 10, but I can have different spaces with different effects. So obviously there's clear spaces, then there's tall walls that no one can go through, there's short walls that flyers can go through, there's water spaces and difficult terrain spaces that cost extra cards to move out of, and there's dark spaces that are like a level of defense if you can enter them. Notably, those are definitely going to be strong control points in the map, because the goal so far, at least, is just to kill your opponent. If I notice that games are stagnating, I might have to make some kind of mechanic that forces characters together, maybe like a Fortnite storm, but that sounds not what I want to do. And so yeah, that's the general synopsis of the rules. Also, I did not touch on the theme, but it wasn't really my first goal. What I decided on for the theme was a Here to Slay-esque vibe, where the heroes are these forest and sea critters, but they're like dressed up as wizards and warriors and knights. So, for example, the devoted paladin is a wolf paladin because, sticking with the pack and committing to an oath felt on theme. In some upcoming videos, I'm going to walk through different characters and their play styles and how they fit into the power level scheme. Right now, I'm recording this actually before my first playtest, but my first playtest is basically prepared. I just have to tape some things together and make some final prayers, emotionally prepare. But yeah, so if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. Also, as much as it sounds annoying, and I don't like to hear it, but liking and subscribing are going to mean the world to me, because this is the first video. So every single like, every single subscribe, every single comment helps. Beyond that, have a good time thinking about games.